All right, let's bring in our political panel. Janelle King is a Republican strategist and host of the Janelle King Show. Also with us on this Friday morning, Mally Smith, Democratic strategist and former North Carolina political director for the Kamala Harris campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. The actual issue Supreme Court justices were focused on is the question of whether lower federal court judges can issue nationwide injunctions. Currently, the number of nationwide injunctions issued during this Trump term is now up to 40. Looking at the numbers for nationwide injunctions issued against other past presidents, you see right there on your screen, and their policies, President Trump's second term is well beyond the others on this list. Janelle, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. When I look at this president as well as his administration, they take chances, they take risks, they like to push the envelope, they like to ensure that we are giving all or nothing. And I think that's a good strategy. I think it's a strategy that states that, you know, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to give you everything that I think we need, and I'm hoping that you would support it. If not, maybe we can get a portion of it. So I'm not surprised at all. He's definitely a risk taker, and he's someone who wants to push the envelope.
Mally, 40 in just 4 months, does that seem like a lot to you?
Well, it does seem like a lot, but to agree with my colleague Janelle, I do think this is part of a concerted strategy here by the Trump administration to push the envelope, because on this birthright citizenship case, it looks like they're going to lose on this executive order pretty resoundingly, but they're probably going to get a win when it comes to this injunction issue. I don't know if that means that district courts will not be able to issue injunctions at all, or if there's going to be some sort of limited circumstances when they're going to be able to, that's going to curtail their ability to do so. But, you know, even if the Trump administration loses the executive order case, which, again, as I said, it looks like they probably will, they're going to be able to come out with a win on the injunction issue.
All right, switching gears, there is a new book coming out next week by CNN's Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. The book is titled Original Sin. It talks about the White House's efforts to conceal Biden's physical decline during the 2024 re-election campaign. Tapper himself denies he helped in covering that up at the time, instead blaming the White House. Here he is on his own network this week. Watch.
Well, Alex Thompson and I were on the case, as were lots of other reporters, trying to figure out what was going on behind the scenes. But the bottom line is the White House was lying, not only to the press, not only to the public, but they were lying to members of their own cabinet. They were lying to White House staffers. They were lying to Democratic members of Congress, to donors about how bad things had gotten.
Yeah, they were on the case, right? Hey, more attention is now focused, Janelle, not on the details of the book, but the cover-up of Biden's decline from Tapper. We'll start with Mally on this one. This is the third, I believe, fourth book that focuses on how bad Biden was, Mally. And let's just go back. 2.5 years ago, I was working for another network, and I remember, Mally, my executive producer said, do not ask this Democratic strategist about Biden's decline, because if he says anything, he'll be the first one out there saying something bad about Biden. Was everyone scared, Mally, just to come out and say it?
Well, now you get to ask this Democratic strategist about it. But so I'll say this. Look, I worked for Biden's campaign. I worked in his administration. I think he was a great president, and he is a good man. But I think he should have been a one-term president. And originally when he ran, he talked about passing the torch to a new generation of leader. I think if he had done that, it would have put us in a much better position to potentially win the White House against Trump. I'm not saying that would have guaranteed a victory with the headwinds with inflation. It would have been a tough election, but it would have certainly put us in a better place. So again, I don't know about the cover-up. I was not nearly important enough in the Biden administration to be part of any cover-up or know what was going on at that level. But I can say, as someone who was on the campaign for Harris, that at least more time would have greatly benefited us.
But, Janelle, anyone who has a grandfather that age saw this way before the 2024 election. Even in 2020, he barely campaigned leading up to that election, but just throughout everything, everyone denied it up until 2024, thinking, oh, it just happened then. It was immediate. No, it wasn't. We all saw it.
Well, I mean, I'm questioning Tapper's cognitive abilities if he needed someone to sit in front of him and say to him that the president was having cognitive decline. We have not had any one-on-one as Americans. We haven't had any one-on-one meetings with the former president, and we could see from 30-second snippets and clips that something was off and something was wrong. So I don't want to berate him or just kind of point the finger, but I will say that the problem the Democrat Party is having is that they're not being honest. They're continuing to spin this story as if everyone was so confused or we thought there may have been something, but I'm not sure. That's just absolutely ridiculous. We were telling you something is wrong. We kept saying it over and over again. And then the stories keep changing. On one side, I'm hearing them say things like, oh, we knew that something was wrong. However, we were waiting on him. We didn't want to overstep him. We wanted him to make the decision. Then on the other side, where I'm hearing, we didn't know anything was wrong. We just thought that maybe he was just having some aging issues. The fact of the matter is the American people know that there's dishonesty that's happening. So the cover up is not so much whether or not we believe your story. It's the fact that we know that you're lying to us and you continue to lie to us. And I believe that this is going to affect them in the upcoming elections.
And now we're talking about the covering up of the cover-up, the original cover-up.
Right.
Hey, Janelle King, Mally Smith, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your context on these topics. Have a great Friday, guys. Appreciate it.